Welcome back, everybody, to Two Guys and a Stack of Comics. Sadly, just one guy for this video. Hopefully, last one for a while that Mike won't be on. He has had quite a busy last couple of weeks, and so hopefully he will be on quite a bit of the videos in a row after this. But wanted to dive into a topic today that I see get a lot of internet coverage. I see get a lot of coverage, especially in the comic book circles of things. And no question, Mike and I have discussed this and talked about this as well. But I think what I wanted to broach talking about today is just the sheer amount of comic books that are getting canceled so soon. We kind of got more announcements that a couple more X-Men books have been canceled. I believe Psylocke is getting canceled. The Jean Grey comic, I don't know if it's ending at issue 15, but the writer's leaving. Seems like there might be something being canceled there. The Red Hulk comic book that I have really, really enjoyed basically was a 10-issue tie-in. It will not be extended past issue 10. We saw another kind of underrated series called Weapon X-Men earlier this year that had Wolverine and Cable and Deadpool. That ended in just a few issues. Even on the DC comic front, we've seen some things. There was a Metamorpho comic book written by Al Ewing, who's not even one of my favorite writers, but it was kind of a nice throwback to a Silver Age type of comic book. Got canceled after just a handful of issues. And most of these books are being canceled really before their first trade even has an opportunity to come out. And so the easy argument from a lot of folks, obviously, and look, Mike and I have been guilty of this at times too, is to just go, well, that's how trash the comic books are. They're that bad. They have to get canceled. Turn it into a whole Marvel sucks, DC sucks, sales are low. And that's the easy kind of predictable path to go down. And I'm sure there is a lot of truth in that. Comic book companies do not typically cancel books that are selling well. It's why we don't see Amazing Spider-Man get canceled a lot. It's why we don't see Wolverine go very long without a solo book. But it does seem that this is happening more and more and more. And so I do think the easy route to go is just blame the creatives. They're all terrible. The art sucks. The prices are too high. I think that plays a factor in it. But I do think also Marvel and DC, to me, need to show a little more faith in some of these books. And that I know, talking to folks who I know who are readers, I've seen this in comments below and videos that we've done, just talking to people I know at the store. One of the things is there are a ton of people who trade wait. And when a book is canceled before the first trade even comes out, you're kind of killing that book before it ever really had a chance to find a significant audience. I think the other portion of it is so many people look at these series and they just know, based on the character or the creative team in some cases, that the book has very little chance of succeeding. And as a result, they don't ever invest, they don't buy. When they don't buy, the stores don't order. When the stores don't order, the book gets canceled. And I think the thing is, well, yes, there are a ton of books that when they order them, you can kind of tell in the inception of the book that it's not going to succeed. I do think Marvel and DC are kind of hurting themselves and not giving any of these books a chance to really find an audience. I think 10 issues, or some cases 6 issues, you're just not giving it a chance to succeed. And so one of the things is, me and Mike talk a lot on here about sports. And I kind of compare this to, football. In the NFL, one of the things that any team will do is they draft a quarterback, right? It's the most important position on the field. If you have a good quarterback, you're typically good. If you don't have a good quarterback, you're bad. But one of the things is, when teams draft a quarterback, even if the quarterback really, really struggles as a rookie, they will not normally cut bait after one season. You'd have to be almost extraordinarily bad for a team to cut bait with a rookie after one season, because they understand it's just starting out, needs time to develop, needs time to grow, needs time to adjust to the game. And so you see routinely quarterbacks who get 1, 2, 3 seasons, and typically somewhere in there, they kind of find their rhythm and become good. I think the problem that we're having with comic books now is, because we get the solicitations 3 months in advance, and fans who are following the books kind of know this, we know about a cancellation 3 months before it happens. And basically, if you have a 10-issue book, again, before the first storyline's even completed, it seems that a decision has been made in many cases for these books to be canceled. And I think the kind of tragic thing with that, and certainly, look, there's some books that probably never should have been made. But I think the thing is, when you don't even give the book a chance to succeed, it doesn't really have any ability to connect with fans. And I think if you look at a lot of the characters that we love, you can go back, I think, even to the original Marvel comic books that came out, the original DC comic books came out. Even the characters that succeeded in the 90s, like Deadpool and Cable and some of those books, typically their first solo runs, their first kind of solo series, are not typically seen as the gold standard for those characters. You do have characters like Wolverine, where Claremont and Miller got that mini series, and that was really his first attempt at being a solo character. And obviously, it's a classic that's held up. But so many characters, and I'll just point to one that I like a lot: Cable. Cable had a lot of group appearances in team books, like the New Mutants and different things. But his first couple solo series or solo issues weren't exactly great. And yet, because maybe sales wise it justified it, but Marvel stuck with that book and gave it a chance to succeed. Deadpool routinely had his series canceled early on. And if you go back, the early Deadpool comic books, there's nothing wrong with them, but they're just not the best appearances of the character. And so what I think is really kind of difficult is it's very difficult to find a creative team where you look and go, man, within the first 3 to 6 issues, they really hit their stride, and that's the absolute best, and that's the only chance to build an audience. I even look at my favorite comic book currently coming out, which is Conan. And while I think the first 4 or 5 issues of Conan are absolutely fantastic and had amazing art, I would not say those were the best of that series. That series routinely got better. And so even though it was great from the outset, I would say issues, 7 through 10 were better than 1 through 6. And I'd say now, even though the book has had different art changes and things, I'd say the last 6 months of Conan has actually been the best 6 months of Conan comic books that we've gotten. And I think a big part of that is you're giving the writer an opportunity to kind of craft things, put stakes together, really make things work. And because we're canceling these books so soon, I just think you're kind of pulling the rug out from under the writer and not really giving them a chance to establish stakes, to really build up any supporting characters. You basically have to hit a home run within the first 3 issues. And I just don't know many comic books that have ever had that happen. And so, well, look, certainly there are books that you can read the first issue and it's an abomination. It's awful. Like it's a terrible comic book and it's not going to succeed. But I do think we have quite a few books that are doing really well in their first couple of issues, not amazing, but solid, a good foundation. And then they never have a chance to grow because it gets canceled so quickly. And I think the audience just never has a chance to catch up to it because comic book fans, we've grown smart into how these things do. With sites that are out there like Bleeding Cool and different sites that are posting spoilers at all times and kind of teasing the cancellation of books months upon months before the books ever have a chance to grow an audience, you kind of know the ending or not to get invested 4 or 5 months before that book ever has a chance to really connect with an audience. And so I thought I'd just be interested to see for you guys down below, has that been something that stopped you from reading? Do you see characters get a book and almost not even want to buy the book or get invested because it won't last? For instance, I know like the Red Hulk book, again, he's not a real famous character, real popular, but I think if you look at that book compared to a lot of the Marvel and DC books on the shelf, it's a great book from an art standpoint. It's a good book from a story standpoint. And the book, basically, before it ever had a chance to really independently say anything outside of an event, is canceled with no opportunity for this creative team to continue. And it does become a really unrewarding experience. And even though I really enjoyed the book, you basically get one story, and it's like, man, I really would have loved to have seen what would they have done post that. Instead, you never get that chance because the cord is pulled so fast on these books. I think X-Men has had this a lot too, and this is one of the more curious things I've seen about X-Men. And look, I say this as a fan who's massively displeased with a lot of what's happened in the X-Men realm in the last decade. There are so many series that get canceled so quickly that, in all honesty, as a fan, even someone who's kind of rooting for those books to succeed or likes a lot of those characters, you just never end up buying it because it's not going to last. When Psylocke gets a solo comic book, there's just very little chance that series is going to go on. And so while I don't think I ever would have enjoyed the Psylocke comic book given the creative team that was on there, I will say I kind of knew, hey, I'm not going to pick up the #1 issue because this isn't going to last very long. I think the same thing can be said for comics like Phoenix and different ones where you just see from the outset, it's probably not going to last. And what's so interesting is Marvel, obviously wants these to try to succeed and that you wouldn't launch a comic expecting it to fail. But it doesn't seem like they have some of the fortitude to let it sit and actually try to grow and produce some of these stories. Because when you look at the characters that we really love, a lot of them have had stories where it's not really till 20, 30 issues in that you start delivering on some of the side plots and some of the side characters that are in there. You start building the stakes, you start building that world, and you start to really care. And so I think it's just an interesting place that Marvel and DC find themselves in, and that you have so many characters like Luke Cage, Iron Fist, Silver Surfer, even characters like Wonder Man and Quasar, who used to sustain long running solo books. You just don't see them now. When you do, it's a 4 issue miniseries. You don't really get all that invested because the book doesn't really have a chance to grow. And so, really, the ability to tell any kind of personal stories that connect with the audience is sort of gone. And so I don't know. To me, that's really struck me lately. I've seen a lot of series canceled. I just think it's actually really hurting the industry quite a bit. In that, I think yes, if something's selling really, really poorly, you can't lose money on it for a while. But I think we just have too quick of a hook at this point for some of these series. And again, there's a lot of series it wouldn't save to keep them going longer. But I think this continual thing of pulling, a book before it's even really had a chance to get through an arc or two, you're just kind of giving it no chance to succeed. And I, in a lot of ways, feel bad for the creative teams, and that it almost seems like an impossible expectation to come in and you've only really got, to be honest with how fast we know this, you've only got 3 or 4 issues to really build a really quick hook, build the character up, build the stakes, and get an audience invested. And I just think that's a very difficult expectation. Again, it'd kind of be the similarity of drafting a rookie quarterback in the NFL, and basically within like 2 quarters, they have to be a superstar or you're done with them, you're releasing them, and you don't see them again. I just don't think you'd get that kind of investment or have much of a success rate for anybody with that. But let me know, what are your thoughts down below? Do you think some of these series are being canceled way too soon? And again, this is not a defense or justification of some of the really bad series that have been out there that have rightfully been canceled. But I do feel there's a lot of series that have potential, that kind of grow or have a cool little niche that they could explore, kind of like Metamorphose comic at DC or Red Hulk at Marvel, that they just get the legs cut cut out from under them before they ever had a chance to grow. And it does make me wonder how many stories we're losing because we never give them an opportunity to actually develop. Anyway, just one man's thoughts for today, folks. Let me know what you think down below. As always, we appreciate you watching. Hopefully, we'll be back with a couple videos with me and Mike later this weekend. Thanks as always. God bless you. Have a great rest of your day.